Muted. Lou, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're muted. Yes. Chat's been yelling. There's no audio.
That's why. Okay, well, maybe that's better. Here, let's see. NVIDIA broadcast. How's that? Everybody, hey! Don't you love it when OBS and Zoom do not like to play nice with each other? Oh my goodness. Well, welcome. Hey, I'm Lou, and it wouldn't be a live broadcast if your audio didn't totally fail exactly when you needed it to not fail. Thank you everybody for your grace and your patience. I'm joined today with Jason from Rise Above the Disorder and content creator and reminder of to check your audio, m00nchyld. Thank you so much. Totally appreciate it. We're having ongoing conversation about mental health alongside so many great charities, hundreds of different brands in honor of Mental Health Action Day. Typically, May is a Mental Health Awareness Day, but we're teaming up with the folks over at MTV Entertainment Group to make it commonplace for us to do a thing in honor of our mental health and maybe even the mental health of others. And so we gathered these folks here to have a conversation, about why we fundraise, why mental health is important, and also we got some questions from the community that Jason's going to help us answer. But before we kind of dive into things, let's talk to Jason a little bit, kind of learn about RAD, Rise Above the Disorder. And Jason, welcome. Tell us about yourself a little bit, like what, who are you, and what brought you to create an organization like RAD?
Sure. Yeah, who am I? Yeah, I ask myself that every day. I'm an anxiety-prone person who loves to play video games that started a guild maybe 10 years ago. And it somehow turned into a nonprofit. um, yeah, I started this guild called Anxiety Gaming. It was a way of just talking with people about their mental health and hoping that I could convince a couple of people to not harm themselves, to seek professional help, and over time, more and more people would join this guild, and there just wasn't enough of me to talk with people that joined the guild. And so there became a bunch of people who were like designated listeners. And then there were people who were there to kind of be heard. Eventually we start finding people, mental health professionals, wherever they were located, because that seemed like a better idea. Um, and over time, so many people joined, very few had access to insurance, had the ability to afford seeing a mental health professional. And so we turned very quickly towards, well, how do we fundraise? How do we help people afford mental health care?
Right. And so are you you're a mental health professional yourself, right? Was that prior to you forming the guild for in World of Warcraft? You've always been a mental health professional, is that correct?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. When we started the guilds, it there wasn't a whole lot that we thought I would be able to do because you're usually very locked into your state. You're usually not able to do anything outside of your state, certainly not outside of your country. Um, so it made a lot more sense for us to focus on finding people, mental health professionals, where they were located instead of trying to source more and more mental health professionals to join the guild and then listen to people.
That's incredible. So, when funds come to RAD, like what does that look like? How would somebody take advantage of this? Because I know one of the biggest questions that I have, because some folks, have the privilege to be able to afford mental health. But when we talk about a month filled with awareness and everybody says, seek out help, many of us, especially in the States, don't have access to it. And something that's intriguing about RAD is that you're helping, unlock those opportunities. How would somebody unlock those opportunities?
Sure, sure. In a way, we're kind of like a universal healthcare system, just run by the gaming community. When somebody donates, they're donating directly towards someone else's medication, somebody else's therapy session. Sometimes they're donating towards a person's transportation, like an Uber or a Lyft to and from therapy. Um, it just goes directly into those. For the longest time, you know, we were boosting people in World of Warcraft, and eventually in League of Legends to crowdfund mental health care for people that were joining our
Yeah.
guilds. Um, and we never thought of, what portion do we take? How are we paying ourselves to do this? We just saw that people couldn't afford help, and we wanted to make that possible. Um, so that's just how it's always been. Running things, and working for free for a really long time. Um, Towards now, thankfully, having some really great partners that make it possible for us to not have to worry about our livelihood and still keep donations at 100% going to mental health care.
No, that's absolutely incredible. Moonchild, when we were chatting, trying to find a good fit for our conversation and which one of the causes and charities to connect with, you gave it a good while to think about this, and then you resonated with RAD. What is it about mental health that is so important to you, and you as in your journey as a content creator?
Um, well, I've actually had issues with mental health since I was a child. It did not get diagnosed until I was, let's see, my son is 6. So when I was about 28, 29 years old, when I was pregnant with him, I had a, sorry if I get a little, I am also an anxiety ridden mess. But I had a little bit of an issue with postpartum from my second pregnancy. And sorry, excuse me.
No, it's okay. And, as whatever you're comfortable with, obviously, want you to feel safe.
I feel it's important to talk about these things, even if it's hard, because it lets people know that they're not alone. But that situation, I did find myself checking into the hospital because I was suicidal. Um, and I was formally diagnosed at that time with major depressive disorder. Um, and so I feel like I'm very blessed, at least in the sense that most of my life I have had insurance. Both of my parents were military. After they got out, I eventually joined myself. There was only a brief period of time in my life where I was not covered. So even though I struggled with these things, the access to that care was there. So as you said, I looked around for um, charities that kind of resonated with me, dug around, asked other people what their experiences were, any charities that they may have worked with in the past, and RAD came up. And so I looked at their site and it just hit. It clicked immediately. Like, yes, I have that access, but there's so many people that don't. You know, your origin story involved gaming. I feel like I found my biggest support group. Excuse me, my kids. I found my
Inevitably.
biggest, we talked about this, but I found my biggest support group through MMOs, through the people that I met on World of Warcraft, the people that I met on Final Fantasy 14, on Ion, on Final Fantasy 11. Those people, I still have them in my life. They were there to support me through my mental health tribulations and whatnot, even before the streaming. So it really did resonate with me. And a lot of them don't have that access. They don't have the insurance. Even if they do have the insurance doesn't necessarily cover mental health services. I recently found myself searching through the marketplace, healthcare.gov for Americans, looking for insurance myself so I could buy a new package. And I was shocked to see how many insurance companies did not cover mental health. And if they did cover it, it was not anywhere near adequate enough. It left so many things out. Um, like I said, I just seeing RAD really clicked with me.
No, that's incredible. I think one of the things I love about this conversation is, like, first of all, like, we're having it, and we're using our platform to have this conversation and to to listen to these stories. But something that, like, in my journey through gaming, I was often told by people not in the gaming community that the networks and the friends and the people that I've met, that they weren't real friends, that it wasn't a real experience. And it left me for a long time questioning the validity of those relationships. And now, after I've been doing this, charitable gaming thing for almost 7 years now, those people are with me still. And so, I mean, Jason, you've touched on it. That's why RAD exists, and that we kind of want to talk about maybe like the pivot from the virtual. Like, we've been in COVID for the last year, and it's been hard, and people's emotional and psychological well-being has suffered. And so, what are some of the things that you've seen people do to find some sort of relief from that? Well, either of you, really, but we'll start with Jason.
Sure. I really appreciate the vulnerability. It it's such a curious thing to struggle with depression, because you watch the people around you. You can manifest this like infinite amount of hope for them, that they can feel better, that they deserve to feel better, um, and then internally just be completely unable to manifest that for ourselves. It's the process of getting started, going to therapy, healing, rebuilding that kind of like inner fire. Um, Already that is so supremely difficult to do. Um, to interview therapists, to really find somebody that you're going to connect with, to be able to afford to see that person. um, that's a lot to have to do before you even begin that process, right? It's what we try and address. We kind of consider ourselves like a half step towards this like journey of feeling well. And during COVID, I mean, we've just seen that erupt. A lot of people who maybe were beyond that half step had found a therapist, had already gotten on medication, were working through some of these challenges in life, and suddenly they no longer had insurance. Suddenly they no longer had the ability to pay. I mean, we had people reaching out to us who were schizoaffective, bipolar, dependent on medication suddenly like, hey, I'm going to get cut off in a couple of months. I don't really know what to do. I know I can get on unemployment or maybe disability, but I don't know how to do this. It's all happening so fast. I just need somebody to help me manage this process. And a lot of our work turned to that, um, turned towards just helping people organize what was going on, the chaos of it all, to help people just see one thing at a time and not just a layer after layer after layer of challenges that were flooding in. um, and it's been one of the most critical things that we've been able to even recommend to people during this time to try and schedule life again. Now that that 9 to 5 is kind of out the window, and you can stay up later, you can wake up later, everything's remote. People have lost track of schedule, of balance, of time, and it's just all melded one day after another, and everything piles up in the background, and you just push it further and further away until it overflows. But um, getting people to organize and restructure, to just take a moment to sit down with one particular challenge, one problem that they want to solve, one thing that they can celebrate overcoming each day, even if it's just getting out of bed, even if it's just making dinner today, and not postmating, even though we don't have the funds to postmate again today.
No, you see me. That was last night, but you're right. No, that's so true. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jason. I apologize.
Oh, no,
Um,
that's fair.
but then, what are some of the things that you've done with your community, or or friends or family, to to push through and to find those tiny bridges to that next moment over this last year?
Yeah, a lot of it has been gameplay,
Gameplay.
honestly. Um, it's it's something that I know for myself and for a lot of people, it's always played this role, right? It's always been where our friends are. It's always been where we go to disconnect or even to connect. You know, I was one of those people who played WoW and continuously tried to use different packet blocking apps to make it appear as if I was offline, like I didn't log in so that I could disconnect but still play something, or of course then turn that off so that I could appear online and connect with people. Um, Lots of people doing that now. Lots of people just wanting to exist online even more so, wanting to connect more with each other, building and playing more social games. It's amazing to see Among Us take off when it did, because it made sense. It
Yeah.
was like the right time for that to take off. And that's what we've been recommending to most of our community, is to try and connect through games again, to really lean into the social side of games, and also to be mindful that they don't get swept up in it. Especially in the content worlds, it's really easy to get swept up in the kind of social, um, what is it? It's almost like high school all over again, I guess, where there's the cliques and the groups, and how do I fit in with these people? How do I, you know, identify within this whole social dynamic online now that it's more important than ever?
Mm.
Um, a lot of content creators, we're seeing a lot of content creators. Everybody who's, I think I missed the boom during COVID, or I'm fighting so hard to be on top of it now that it's my time to shine. And yeah, it's very, very challenging.
You have some friends and fans in the chat room, child, who are part of your community. People giving you love and saying that you are a part of their of their helping their mental health. But how have you helped your own mental health and the mental health of your family, and kind of over this last year?
Um, To be quite honest, my job, because of my disability, I specifically searched for a job that allows me to work from home. So the transition that many people went through with COVID was not one that I went through because I was already working from home. So I already had some things that were in place that I did to keep me grounded and kind of make me feel the same connection and separation between work life and personal life that people that would normally commute would do. But outside of that, I found that I was really struggling because it was just me and my kids. My ex-husband was gone. It was the whole last year was turmoil. It was just trying to work so many different things out and figure out how to navigate those things. And so what I found helped me personally was same thing, video games. I'm a nerd. I love my games. I love that I can check into a different reality for a little bit and just kind of get away from all of the things that are stressing me out in real life. And it doesn't pull me so far away that, how do I put it? It doesn't pull me so far away that I forget my reality, but it does allow me to relax for a bit. I do Animal Crossing. I just looked over at chat and I see Blue Heart has mentioned fishing. I am an avid video game fisherman. Um,
Oh,
all I
okay.
do
That's
is
no in-game video. There's something about fishing in games. I mean, just to kind of nerd out for a moment, because I know all three of us play games. Like the fishing in, what's it, Cozy Camp? Is it Cozy
oh, oh,
Camp?
oh, I know what
Uh,
you're talking about. I'm terrible with
Cozy.
names too.
Somebody's
It's
going.
like Animal Crossing, but
It's like
it's
Animal Crossing, but it's the Cozy Grove. Thank you,
there it is.
Tyworth. Cozy Grove. But no, fishing is like meditative almost. It's like often the not the function of the game, but there's something about it. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yes.
derail last.
No,
Okay,
you're
now
fine.
Jason has to tell. What's your favorite fishing part? Your favorite fishing mini game inside a game, if you
Honestly,
have one.
it's wow. There was a time where a bunch of us had like long since quit World of Warcraft, but came back in a fishing only RP guild. And we just had the most fun with it. All of us had like different fishing related titles within the guilds instead of like officer member and stuff like that. And
I love that.
that was a lot of fun.
That's like an RP I can get into. That is amazing. That's fantastic. No, absolute
Yes.
gaming. So gaming has been that bridge for so many of us, right? I see chat lighting
Mhm.
up with all the different things that we do. Like I resubbed to WoW. I play WoW and Final Fantasy. I do all of that just because you want that connection and everything you described is it feels accurate. It feels like I sometimes want to be online with other people, but I don't want to play with other people, which is weird, but it makes sense in a time where we just really haven't had that socialization that that I think that we want and we need.
Mhm.
That's fascinating. It's really exciting. Um, well, this might. I mean, again, I do want to reiterate, m00nchyld, thank you for your vulnerability. I, I I definitely appreciate that, and I think that so many people want to and need to hear that story. So thank you for that. I do want to hear some other questions that we may have that we've gathered. So, Jason, if you want to read the questions and then answer them, and then if it's relevant for us or the chat to have comment on it, that'd be great.
Sure. Let's see.
And the fishing part of Final Fantasy 15 was the only part of the game I liked. I don't know if anybody's played Final Fantasy 15, but that's the only part of the game I liked. People
I
laughed
didn't
at me.
play
I'm like,
15.
"What's that?"
I didn't play 15.
Uh, it was being like in a boy band, but the fishing part was the best part. The Choco Bros. Yes, and Smoka.
Um, so let's see. The first question I have, um, I feel that something is not okay with my mental health, but when I want to ask for help, I tell myself that I'm just overreacting and my problem is nothing compared to those who have mental illnesses. I don't know if my problem is big enough to visit a therapist. What should I do? is it okay to feel that way? Um, let's see. Yeah, that's unfortunately something that we see quite a bit. Um, this general feeling as if how I'm feeling isn't enough to warrant seeking help. I don't want to maybe waste anyone's time is often kind of the narrative that we hear people come from. Um, it feels like there are just so many other people that are suffering within this very severe way, and they need to kind of go first. It makes sense for someone to build that kind of internal narrative, right? To really build so much empathy and sympathy for other people that they're regarding them in that way, not wanting to take time from this professional who's trying to help people, not wanting to occupy a space that other people who are really hurt could need, and then to instead kind of stand in the background and just wait, and hopefully it'll be made clear when it's time for me to get help. um, I watch this time and time again where people, yeah, have learned over time, learned growing up that their needs are very much secondary to everyone else's. They say yes to anything. They go out of their way to keep people around them happy. They sacrifice endlessly to keep some sense of connection to the people around them, and yeah, again, always at the cost of themselves. Um, to just do that, to identify that I'm the kind of person who really does make so much effort to take care of others, to put other people first. That in itself really warrants seeking a therapist, not because it's inherently wrong for you to be so empathetic, to want to support so many people, but because that takes a ton of energy that needs to be replenished. You're a person that maybe it can be hard to acknowledge or feel, but the people around you really depend on. You probably listen to them and they come to count on that. You're a good listener, you're good at understanding people, you can feel what they're feeling, and you have to be able to replenish that energy. Therapy is a great place to do that. The other reality of that question is that there really is no bar for entry to get started in therapy. It's very much like going to a gym for your physical health. People that are, have been exercising forever, that are just very much into fitness, go to the gym. People who are just getting started, go to the gym. People who are maybe just curious, go to the gym. There's really no level that you have to reach where, okay, now it's okay for me to do this. And you're not forcing a therapist to see you, you're not forcing a therapist to take a slot away from someone else. When a therapist sits down and talks with somebody, it's a mutual decision on getting to see each other. It's finding value in each other, it's learning from each other. It's somebody who has signed up for this life, who loves listening to people, loves helping people, and probably has a very natural affinity for those who would otherwise put themselves in the background and wait. They- They're probably somebody that identifies very much with that mentality, and so they would appreciate seeing you and talking with you.
No, that resonates. I think as a parent, you don't want to you want to always put your child forward, and that just hit. That felt very close to home, where you I think for it's also to me like it feels like there might be a stigma of like I couldn't handle my own business, so
Mhm.
I don't want anybody to know that I couldn't handle it. And I mean, I think that anybody can feel that, but I definitely, trying to be vulnerable even with my own son has been a part of that journey. So that's intense. That's incredible.
We
Um,
tend to hold very unique but polar sentiments towards things like that, especially in like a Western mindset where we can look and see what mastery looks like. Somebody training under a master. Maybe it's a martial art. Maybe it's a guild. It's somebody who is learning how to become a blacksmith from like a master blacksmith, and go, wow, that's really, really cool to see somebody really engage in that kind of behavior. Um, at the same time, we tend to have this mentality that, I need to do it myself. I need to do everything myself, and to not be able to do so is some kind of acknowledgement of lacking in some way. Um, but it's a detriment to our life to put ourselves in that position. We really do, acknowledge throughout life that there are times where, we have to be self-sufficient. We have to be self-motivating. Um, but the most valuable time seems to be when we connect with other people and work together, when we're really engaged with somebody who understands and can sympathize with us and empathize with us. And it's a wonderful thing to lean into that. It's almost taking a huge burden off our shoulders to step back and go, okay, um, I'm going to do this together with other people rather than just on my own. I'm going to heal with other people. I'm going to engage and share and talk about these things and allow myself to be surrounded by other people. There's really no glory in going about these things alone. It's maybe sometimes we celebrate the person who's self-made, self-started, but so often when we dig into those stories, few people are. Um, Almost everybody succeeds with others.
And that brings to mind a question that I have for Moon as a content creator. And I know you have family, but as a content creator, you curate a community. How have you seen, or how would you suggest somebody to create, kind of what Jason's talking about? What are some things? And if you don't know, I think you do. But if you don't know, then that's fine. But what would you do to somebody who's just starting out in content creation and they have a community? How do you set that expectation that this is what you're going to do?
Personally, be transparent. I found that the best thing that has worked for me as far as building a community that is not only aware of mental health concerns, but is supportive of each other as a community is to be transparent. I talk about the things that I go through. Um, I talk with my community about the things that they're going through. Not every situation or every stream is, a fitting environment for certain conversations. But I think at a surface level, we can talk about these things. I had a bad day. Okay, well, why did you have a bad day? That's something that typically comes through the chat. Once people start to feel comfortable, they start opening up. And I think it's up to you as the streamer to decide, what is the tone that I want to set with this? Do I want to talk about this? Do I want to shut it down and focus on something else? And for me, I chose to talk about it. There, I recognize, okay, there are people that are going through the same things as I am. I started streaming as an escape. I had just gotten sick when I first started streaming. I needed something to do with myself. And my friends had showed me Twitch, and I was like, oh, this looks like fun. I want to get on in on that. So I started. And at first, it was just this little, I'm just going to call it, a little ghetto stream, just my little cam in there, this weird little cutout. This weird little cutout with my bad audio and everything. And somehow people came around and we connected and we talked. And it turned into more than that. We started doing this thing where we go, check up from the neck up. How are you feeling today? What's
I love
going on
that.
in your head? Even if it's too heavy, I understand that. We have a Discord, we could talk about it there. But how are you doing? Are you good? Did you take your meds today? Did you get some water? Have you eaten? How are you feeling? What can you do to feel better if you're not feeling good? And I think my cat is tearing up the couch again.
That's okay.
He wants attention.
I just flashed my background of my dog on the stream, so it's fine. You're talking about your stream not being up to snuff, and I'm like, my audio's out. I'm showing my desktop. What else can I do? So
Sorry, the little offender, the four-legged offender came out. So I could hear, got distracted. But yeah, that's basically kind of how I went about it. And that it wasn't entirely just me. It was, going to other streams and interacting with other streamers. And, we would talk to each other about the things that we were going through. How are you, this happened in my chat today. How do you handle this? And
yeah.
it kind of evolved from there. That's my story. Yes, pets are
No, no,
great for
that's
mental
great.
health.
The checkup from the neck up is like, I love it. It's amazing. All right, well, let's have another question, Jason. Let's see what else we got.
Oh, okay. So this question is, how can I tell if I have an emotional, behavioral, or physical problem that affects my mental health? Um, so this is a very interesting question because of the depth that it can go into. Um, the initial disclaimer is of course, if you believe that there may be some kind of issue physically, you should speak with your doctor and talk with them about that. Get the necessary test. Um, One of the things that I tend to see though is that this question usually comes from a place of anxiety and can be really common with those that have an anxiety disorder. Um, the challenge there, someone with a pretty severe anxiety has likely talked with many doctors who tell them frequently that there is nothing physically wrong with you. It's just the anxiety. It's in your head, is what I hear a lot. And sometimes maybe that is correct. Sometimes maybe that is not correct. It's really hard to gauge. So the interplay of all of this, I think, is very important. When we struggle with anxiety, there is very much a physical side to this. Mental health issues impact our thoughts, our feelings, our mood. They impact our ability to socialize. They change us physically. Um, my particular field of research, even explored how these issues change our genes in real time. How the more stressed we are, the more sensitive we are to stress. How likely we are to compound that stress.
Mm.
Um, all of these things play a very important role in understanding them. When you're feeling anxious, there's physiological component to this. You're feeling your body take on stress. You're feeling your body take on anxiety and react from that. Your mood shifts. The way you see and perceive things, the way you react towards things changes. And of course, our behaviors change. Our behaviors, especially in the case of anxiety, turn a lot of times towards avoidance. Um, Much like we learn very quickly that fire is hot and we do not want to touch fire. When something really traumatizing happens to us, we very much solidify in our head, okay, I don't want to do that again either. So I'm going to avoid doing that. And that changes our behaviors. These can be hard things to undo, but they can be undone. So for this person in particular, how can I tell if this is emotional, behavioral, or physical problem that affects my mental health? It can be all of those things, right? It's always going to be all of those things. It's really understanding the severity there. Is this something where um, is it a thyroid concern is one that can be kind of common, that can create symptoms of anxiety, that can create a sensitivity towards stress and anxiety? Is it um, sometimes I hear, is it cancer? Is it a heart attack? Is it any of those things? The best that we can really do is talk with a doctor, rule those things out, and accept that. Try and really trust that we've done what we can do, and that to do much more is to really engage further into the anxiety. Um, and yeah, no one can really give you that answer beyond a medical professional that you work with, that you go through and talk with and share in detail how you're feeling.
The thing is, one of the things that I learned the most about my own mental health was that there's not a fix. There's not like a one day I'm just going to get better, but that it's a mindfulness to set that expectation that you can't. I mean, it's just like, but you mentioned the gym. It's just like working out. If you stop working out, your body is going to, it's going to feel that. It's going to feel that. And I think that it's a similar, it must be a similar thing with our mental health as well to do that check in. Um,
Sure, sure. And for myself, when I started struggling with anxiety, um, I struggled pretty severely with it. It's what led me to turn to World of Warcraft. It's what led to the creation of this guild's anxiety gaming that we started as. It was I couldn't leave home anymore. Every time I left home, I thought in my mind that I was going to die. I could feel the heart attack happening. I could feel the brain aneurysm. I could feel the allergic reaction. Anything that my mind could connect to justify how overwhelmed, how terrified I was. There's no way this is a panic attack. And, even if it might be, is that a risk I'm willing to take? That this is just a panic attack this time and not something more serious. And if I wasn't at home in my room trying to stay distracted and not have these thoughts that could trigger a panic attack, I was at the local ER constantly being told, hey, you need to stop coming here. You are fine. There's nothing wrong with you. um,
um,
and I just refuse to believe it. But I feel this way this time. That's different, right? So it could be something, but I really couldn't breathe. um, yeah, I mean, it was a nightmare. um, that's always what I get concerned about when we talk with people that have some kind of health anxiety, or really, are wanting to get this test or that test, more test. Is it's hard to say whether you're right or wrong. You feel something, and you genuinely are looking for a solution for that. You're looking for a way to understand. You're not trying to be told that it's something terrible. You just want to be able to rule that out and feel safe, feel comfortable, letting go of that. And it's that very practice that can be so elusive, that very nature of looking for, researching, trying to take this test, this test, that really starts to show us it's very likely anxiety. It may not. But even for myself, I had to make a decision at some point of, at this point, I'm not really living. I'm doing everything I can to avoid dying, and I'm doing everything but living. I guess I'm just going to take the risk this time. And if something happens. But I don't want to be stuck here anymore. Not like this. Um, it took a very long time to overcome. But therapy is always the safe option, right? It's always going to be okay to do. And if after lots of therapy there's just no decline in any of these physical feelings, then it's worth continuing the discussion with your doctor.
Absolutely. And Moon, if at any point in time you have something to add as a comment, please feel free to jump in and comment. We want to hear what you have to say. Um,
I've mostly just kind of been listening and occasionally feeling attacked.
So sorry.
You're fine. Um, uh, as far as like anxiety goes, I've only had chemically induced anxiety. I don't know if anyone's ever been on steroids before, but early in my stages of my rheumatoid arthritis, they treated it with prednisone. And the dosage that I was on was so high that it caused a lot of issues, to put it mildly. And anxiety was one of those things. So I would constantly find myself in my room, like struggling, thinking I can't breathe. And I'm calling my friend, gasping on the phone, I can't breathe, And I had the same situation. It got to the point where the paramedics started to recognize me. They'd show up at my house and they're like, "You're fine. It's okay. You're fine." And I'm like, "But I can't breathe." Like, "You're fine." So yeah, it felt like a trip down memory lane a little bit there.
Yeah, it's a frustrating thing. I definitely was very well known by the local paramedics. They're like, "You again?
Yeah.
What is it this time? Is it a heart attack? Is it a stroke? Brain aneurysm?" And I'm just like, "Guys, just take me." And they're like, "All right, here we go, $800." Even though I lived maybe 2 minutes from the emergency room.
Mm.
Yeah, I think there's another level and another conversation about that adds
Yeah.
that anxiety. Like when people, like you have a panic attack, you're like, I mean, the alternative is like if you're having a heart attack and you don't get the help, then you're putting yourself at risk. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I know that, I mean, I've been in a situation where like if I call the ambulance, I don't have the money to pay for that ambulance. And
Oh,
that is another level of stress and anxiety, another layer. And it's people, I can't be the only person who's experienced that. People
no,
put
no.
off their mental health and even their own health just because of the affordability of it or lack thereof. um,
Sure.
Yep.
COVID's made that even more clear where somebody is like, I got to make the decision between this is a cough, this is anxiety, or this is COVID. And if I go to the hospital or the ER, I'm either going to get it if I don't have it, or I'm going to get a bill that will ruin my life. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, it is. It is an interesting country that we live in. Many people experience this, unfortunately, which is why we're so adamant about fundraising for psychotherapy. It's to me it seems like unnecessary investment, right? Like it's really wild to watch people dispute it, or to watch people justify why this is not something to put more spending towards, that it's so expensive. And World of Warcraft guilds crowdfunded 37,000 people's mental health care. Um, and we did this across 133 countries, but this country in particular can't can't seem to put it together. I read the reports of how our government performs in mental health care every year, and we're looking at these government funded clinics, government subsidized clinics, spending $28,000 a year per person to give them meds and watch them, never come back because they can't make another appointment. There's this one social worker that's got 500 people on their list and they just can't find time to schedule this person back in. um, it is an absolute is an absolute nightmare for so many people. And yet if we could just start therapy early on, when people first start to experience these issues, we might not be in this situation. We might not get to that point where I'm questioning whether this is anxiety or some kind of terminal illness. The
right.
anxiety hasn't progressed that far because I addressed it really early on. I ruled it out. What if I could go to a doctor and it not cost me my future, and a lot cause me to be in debt for the next few decades? Then I could rule this out pretty quickly, right? Um, it is a very frustrating circumstance that we're pretty passionate about, to put it lightly.
Well, I think that that's kind of the exciting thing, and I'm glad we're having this conversation today as we are moving towards, this week of conversations with lots of different charities, doing similar things across, across the U.S. and across the world, um, is making this conversation commonplace. Not just the conversation, but like the application of the knowledge we already have about mental health needs to be everywhere. Like our employers need to know. Like I mean, I know we often joked about like mental health day. Never at Tiltify, we've never joked about mental health day. But like you've been at places like, oh, he's on a mental health day. Like,
Mhm.
no, I am on a mental health day. I need to stop working because I am feeling that I need the break. And uh, this week is, it's that day of action, and hopefully people, organizations, branches of government organizations, all these amazing, over 700 organizations and businesses that are involved with Mental Health Action Day, that this is that time for change. And I I see so many of my peers and so many content creators in this space, and so many fundraisers on Tiltify who are activists in mental health. They want to see this change, and that's why m00nchyld's with us today, is that to have this conversation about we can do better, and organizations like RAD that says we have to do better. There's really not any choice here.
Mhm.
um,
To
I don't know if we
yeah.
have any more time for another question. um, but I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Jason. Go ahead.
No, I almost interrupted you. Sorry. I was just gonna say, from that political side, and I mean, politics are everywhere. There's always the take a side kind of thing, and um, to me, I think probably the greatest act of protest right now is going to therapy. It is one of the most powerful things that you can do because it allows you to have the space to really think and really explore how you feel, how you see the world, how you want to act on what you think and what you believe. It's one of the strongest acts of protest that you can engage in, because from there is the freedom to do so much more. For us, it's, we could focus on politics, we could focus on awareness, we could focus on policy. There's great nonprofits out there focused on policy and awareness. To us, though, it's I, I was at home for years suffering with my mental health, unable to get help because I couldn't afford it. um, I don't know what somebody is doing for me in policy right now, but it's not working, and I don't know what somebody is doing for awareness. I've been aware. I'm in pain dealing with it every day. I'm fully aware. I'm at the point of I see the meme and I'm just like, yeah, same. It's just it's how it be sometimes. Um, and it just got us, me personally, and I know our team as well, very fired up about, well, let's just do something. Let's make this possible. We can really change things by just removing that one barrier to getting this help, to just take away the financial side and see what people do with it. We don't push people in any particular direction. We don't push any ideology ourselves, just the freedom to choose and feel the way that you want. And it's very important to do that. And I might be biased about that, but I genuinely believe so.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people are feeling. If you are feeling helpless, we have lots of resources in the chat. The mods have been sharing all sorts of amazing stuff. You can visit. Um, there we go. Thank you so much. YouAreRad.org. You can go there. You can get involved. You can ask questions. You can fundraise for RAD on Tiltify. If you need a call to action, then do that, because you know that you're helping others, and uh, that is an incredible gift. And every single bit helps. This cause to drive it forward. Now, this has been an intense and surprisingly vulnerable, but a wonderful conversation. Um, Jason, thank you. m00nchyld, thank you so much. It's so important to get to know you more and for you to share your thoughts and your feelings today. I appreciate that. Do either of you have anything else you want to tell, like our friends watching, like about either about RAD or about like part of our journey to pursuing support of our mental health?
I saw a couple of people mention in chat that they were taking mental health days, or that they were just starting therapy, or they were otherwise just doing something to take just that baby step into taking their mental health into their own hands and doing something about it. And I don't have much to say, but I'm proud of you. That is so hard. That is so hard. Like, I've been vulnerable today, but I have a couple of friends in chat and they know I am pigheaded and I am very obstinate. And when I don't want to talk, I will not talk. They have to like pick it out of me. Um, so I know how difficult that is to go, I need help. I need this. And then to not feel guilty about it and then take what you need and take care of yourself. And so I am really proud of y'all. Like, seriously.
I love that. Jason,
Don't yell at me.
any? No,
Beautiful.
that's amazing.
That's beautiful.
We always talk about, like, got to put your mask on before you put on even your kid's mask in the airplane when the emergency happens. Same thing.
Yes.
Got to take care of yourself, or else you're not going to be any good to anybody else. It's kind of a very gross generalization. I'm not a mental health professional, but um, but Jason, final thoughts for folks.
Sure. I think maybe this quote could be of help. I know it's really helped me. But the quote is, who you are is enough. If only you would be it openly. Carl Rogers said that many, many years ago. He's one of the most impactful psychologists in time. I always found that really special.
Oh, you almost got me tearing up over here, Jason. That's so true.
Right.
Oh,
Felt that one.
Both always nervous and excited to have these conversations with causes and topics surrounding mental health, because of that vulnerability that we're if we're open to it, we will fill. So thank you both so much for this conversation. Everybody in chats, you are wonderful, amazing folks for joining us for this conversation. There's more to come this week, but obviously, if you want to share this conversation, will be up and available sometime tomorrow on our YouTube and, of course, on the VOD. You're all the best. We'll see you again tomorrow. m00nchyld, Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it.